afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday. Today is the 13th day of the third month into 2022. It is also an important day on or before the 15th of March. That is our discussion this afternoon as it regards to taxes. I want to thank you for joining me this and every Sunday right here on the Iconic Advisor page on YouTube, the on Facebook, the Financial Advisor page, Shernet Higgins Clark, and every Sunday at 4 p.m. Thank you guys for joining in. For those of you who will be joining the live, welcome. Those who will be watching the live, the replay rather, or the videos on YouTube, thank you for watching. And also your comments are important, your questions are important. And I just want to jump right on in this Sunday because y'all have just 2 days to get your house in order. Today is the 30th day of March, as I said before. Now, we are all concerned about price increase. And of course, we also need to be concerned about taxes because all of us as Jamaicans, we are generally liable to income tax at a rate about 25%. And of course, I don't know all the details, but persons will wonder if our taxes are high. And of course, Jamaica's tax regime is complicated with relatively high rates. And of course, when I don't know how to divulge much into it, I bring in the expert. And I brought on none other than Mr. Ricardo Hansen, the capable, of course, auditor and tax professional. Welcome to the Iconic Advisor page, Ricardo, and I want to thank you in advance. Busy man and get me nervous today, but he has made it, and I really appreciate it. Welcome, Ricardo.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Now, I have a few questions for you, and I want to encourage my viewers if you have any questions to join. And I want to welcome those who have already joined the Iconic Advisor page. Of course, we talk financial planning, we talk about budget, generational wealth, whatever it is that we can do to manage in this time. We want to make sure that we cover those. And of course, if you have suggestions, Ricardo, don't want to bore you with all of this, I want to start work, based on what you have come here to do. And what is income tax return and who should file?
All right, so thanks for having me again. I look forward to the questions from your viewers, whether it be live or after. I'll make myself available to answer them. All right, so income tax returns. The income tax returns are prescribed forms that the Income Tax Act says that you must file. There are some classes of persons that it says you are to file upfront, such as self-employed people, etc. And it also has a catch-all to say whosoever the Commissioner General of the THA says should file. Even if, for example, an employed person would not be filing a return unless told to do so. So normally your employer would take out your PAYE taxes, as you call them, during the course of the year. But if the Commissioner General, for whatever reason he or she thinks fit, they can ask you to file a return, and the law says you must comply.
So that is based on legislation. Now we're talking about
It
law.
is.
It's not if I feel like whether I'm under self-employed, whether I earn money this year or not, I should be filing.
Correct. Once you are in that category, and THA has that on their website, you would know that you're a commission sales agent, so you guys have to file your returns. You're prescribed by the Commissioner General. And once you are self-employed, or even if you're employed and you have multiple sources of income, then you would have to file as well.
Wow, yeah, I like the multiple streams of income, and I do encourage that my audience think about multiple streams of income. And yes, you need to be filing on all of those. How does one go through the tax preparation process?
All right, so the tax preparation process, some people are of the impression that it begins somewhere around March, when they know the tax filing deadline for income tax is just about March 15. Sometimes the Commissioner General is gracious enough and you get an extension under certain circumstances, but you can't count on that. All right, so the process really does begin from the year before, where you have to start planning how you're going to do your record keeping. The claiming of expenses is a major thing. Of course, you have to divulge all your sources of income, but you should also claim all your business related expenses, and you claim these from the transaction records that you have. So your invoices, your receipts, contracts, all of those various source documents, you have to store them during the year. You have to ensure that they're in proper form, meaning don't get them all wet and muddied, and also ensure that if you are, for example, a sole proprietor, have your invoices written out to the name of your business or to you if you're trading in your own name. A lot of persons do commit the cardinal sin of having everything written to cash sales or cash. And in truth and in fact, there's nobody so called. So the first part of the process is that you must keep proper books and records as required by the legislation as well. If along the way, when you're seeing, collate these as necessary and get advice as necessary. So if you are involved in a business that multiple businesses, because you do have corporations that have subsidiaries and so on,
Mm-hmm.
don't know why they wouldn't have an accountant already for that. But when your transactions are complex, you must seek advice. So keep proper books and records, consult as is necessary. If you have international, you have some transactions that you have people now, self-employed people who earn here in Jamaica, and you have them that earn overseas as well.
Mm,
It is best to seek a tax professional for that, because
right.
once you operate, as I just group them under the term complex transactions. Once you start operating complex tax transactions, you really do need someone to sort that out for you.
Right, because I have a shoebox. You speak about as soon as the year starts, I start storing all the receipts that are relevant to the expense as it relates to my business. And you mentioned in terms of keeping proper records also can be that there are certain receipts that fade
Yes.
before the year ends that you want to make sure whether you take a picture or you make a copy of those. But I had a question as it relates to receipt where you say in terms of naming the business, my fuel, there are some of the gas stations that give you a receipt, but it's just for the amount that you have purchased and the total. The your license plate is not on it. Your name is not on it. How can I prove to the auditors or the tax auditor that this is in fact fuel that I purchased for my car, or as against the gas station that gives me a handwritten receipt with my license plate on it? Because I could have written that anyway. Um,
Right.
and we have had
So
those issues in the past.
right. So before I even touch that, I was just mentioning a while ago, I realized that one of my thoughts slipped. So after you've kept your books and records and you have consulted and found your tax professional, follow up with them, ensure that they file on time, be early.
Right,
That's the
right.
last part of it. Do it early. Start from January. Persons always ask when you can file. You can file as early as January,
As January.
even
Mine
a
has
bit
been
earlier,
submitted
but
already, by the way. So
right.
I am one of the convicted. I and I see where the benefits of filing on time helps,
It
because
helps.
what had happened too, and something was submitted incorrectly, and we had to go back in and make an amendment so it could have been done in time. So you're able to
Correct.
capture that. So instead of waiting on everybody else, there was an issue with the system. So you want to make sure that you're filing on time. Are there
Correct.
penalties for filing, for
Right.
not filing or not for filing on time?
Yes, there are. But let me just take both of those questions together. So the issue of the receipts from the gas station, you would at that point you would keep them because that is what you got.
Yeah.
and that's what you would defend as the expense. But this may be adjusted based on the best judgment of the auditor. So it is more at that point, it is more about how you position your arguments, and then by looking at your travel pattern, by looking at how much money you generate, etc. Those types of things have a linkage. You wouldn't be using a whole heap of gas to do to not do any business. Put it that way. So that becomes a bit of a debatable issue at that point. But it's always best just get an account if you can. Get an account with your gas station. So if you are not the type of person who can save all your million and one receipts
Receipt.
that you'll get, you will get a statement from them at intervals at the end of a month, whenever you and them have agreed. And this will have your name, your plate number, the dates that you came and collected, and of course, you pay and you get your receipt. So that clears that up.
Yeah,
With
man.
the issue of the late filing, if you file late, you start incurring penalty of $5,000 per month or part of a month. So if a month missed you and then you said, oh, today are the first, I'm going to do it today so that I may not have another month of penalty. No, the one day counts as part thereof. So you incur another 5,000. So
Wow.
come the 16th of March, all persons who are to file and have not, then they will incur
That's
a
the first
$5,000.
5,000.
Yes, and every month thereafter. So about $60,000 per year. And of course, there's a small residual interest that follows you as well. So that adds up to a bit.
Right. So if we're talking about budgeting, generational wealth, we don't want to be spending 60,000 or any amount of that sort that we can avoid by filing on time. And today is the 13th, it means that you need to do it today, not
All right.
tomorrow.
All
Today,
right.
out of the rush. No. If I don't file, is it the same 5,000 per month or that's a different amount? If I don't file, let's say March 15 come and I decide I haven't done anything for last year, which was 2020, 2020 and 2021. Is it the
Right.
same 5,000 per month or there's something that is added again at the end of the year?
It is the same 5,000 for each month for each return that is outstanding. So if you have not filed for, regardless of the outcome of the return, whether you are to pay taxes or not, you have that 5,000. So in that case, for a 2020 return, that would have been late from last year, from 2021 March. So that would have gained about $60,000 in penalty and would still continue for each month going forward.
Hmm.
That the breach is still live, and then
Wow.
this
A
current
costly
year.
breach.
Right.
A
And then for
costly
this
breach.
current year, it would start at the 5,000 and continue until such time. Even if it's for $0 that you earn during the year, you should just file on time.
Gentlemen and gentlewomen, gentle folks, everybody, it is a part of our duty. The government needs the taxes. And we heard the budget recently for those of you who probably read it or in order for them to cover any bits and pieces of that or to be true to the budget, we have to file our taxes. We have to pay our taxes and we need to pay our returns. What is it now that we need in terms of preparing what I need to put together, what information I need for filing my annual tax return?
All right. So, and we've been speaking pretty much to a sole proprietorship situation or an individual so far. Income tax is also applicable to companies.
Right.
I'd expect any well-thinking company that they would have had some professional on board to deal with this. What you need is under the big broad banner of all expenses incurred for the purpose of the business. And then there are some other deductions that are applicable, such as capital allowance and so on. But the real bulk of it sits at your books and records.
Right.
All of those invoices that you have all your receipts. As I said, if you have anything outside of just adding your income minus the general expenses and you're at your tax, you need to consult somebody. That would include um, any interrelated transactions, because you know the whole arm's length principle under the act, when you're doing self-dealing, if you're connected companies or connected businesses really. Capital allowance is one. That is an allowance given on your assets because depreciation is not allowed under the Income Tax Act. And it kind of is clear. Depreciation is something that is determined company by company, individual by individual. So the matter of capital allowance is one standard that governs everyone. So you have to get the proper advice that you need, as I always say, and have all your books and records.
In
That
yeah.
that is like 99% of your problem solved.
All right. I saw Latrice Wilson White out of the United States saying that's very important for Jamaicans, but it is also important for those living in the United States. I think it's even taken more seriously there in terms of strategic measures in terms of collecting. You guys might be familiar with the IRS there, so you want to make sure that you're filing. And welcome, D. Campbell. We're talking taxes today. You're asking what's the topic, just joining in. Thank you once again, guys. Remember to share to your family and your friends. We are on. We'll be off in a few minutes. We just have don't want to keep Ricardo here too long. He's a hard worker and it is a tax season, so he's overworked. But how can one get a tax refund, Ricardo? It's something that he loves. But you know, we don't want working too much. He has 2 days. Which to
You are
finish.
correct. You are very correct. All right, so tax refund. So you see, earlier I did state that what tax returns are. A lot of
Right.
people don't think of the word returns in the noun sense. They think of
No.
it more as a verb, something coming.
9 years ago, I never thought about it. I didn't think that could happen in Jamaica either.
All right. So it's really that it's used really legally there to say a writ of return is just a paper, a schedule, a form. But the refund now is where it gets nice and spicy for most persons. This is what
Yes.
they're more interested in.
Yes.
How you get an income tax refund is when you have paid more taxes, more income tax than you ought to. So you have persons that, and a lot of Jamaicans, I must confess, when I talk with them, a lot of them didn't even know there was such a process as getting an income tax refund. So the tax department has some education to do there.
Right, right.
Yeah, well, persons like commission sales agents, of which you are one,
I am.
yeah, they do pay their taxes up front. Their employers um, take these taxes each month from the commissions that are paid to them. They pay
Highly.
that over. And at the end of the year, what happens is that they are allowed, because they do traveling, lots of traveling, have business expenses, things that they have to do in order to earn the income that they do. They claim these expenses at the end of the year. So if your taxable income is revised down from the point that your employer had stated that it was in order to apply the taxes and collect and return that to the government,
Mm-hmm.
then you would have to recompute your income tax, your education tax, for example, and then do a comparison to see which is higher, what my employer deducted or this amount that I have computed. Most times, the amount you've computed is going to be lower, and that means you now have an excess of taxes paid and taxes payable. And
Yes,
this is where
sir.
you will get income tax refund.
What exemption can I get to reduce my taxes?
All right. So, in respect of exemptions, of course, legitimately, your expenses do reduce the burden that you would have to pay in terms of taxes. Exemptions, speaking of things such as charitable, making donations to charitable entities. Let me rephrase that. Not just because you have lots of charitable entities that are not
Registered.
charity registered. charitable organizations, organizations registered under the Charities Act of 2013. Those are the entities to which you can give monies, and these monies can, of course, there's a limit. I think it's about 20% of your overall income. Don't quote me on that exactly, but
Right. I don't
that's
recall.
that's the ballpark. Um, about that, and those contributions you make, you get receipts from them that would state how much you have contributed, and you use this to reduce your tax. Of course, as I said, if you have assets that you utilize, you can get capital allowance on them. So that is
Mm-hmm.
one thing that helps to reduce it even further. Of course, if you are one of those persons who fall, not that I'm encouraging people to go and injure themselves, but if you're one of those persons who fall in the special groups, and you go and get yourself registered as being whether physically handicapped, so persons who are deaf, dumb, have certain injuries that impair them a certain way. But once you're registered with the Disabilities Foundation, and you have the clearance from the Ministry of Labor slash the Chief Medical Officer, then you become exempt from income tax altogether. And that is what most people would love to have,
Rely on.
but we
Yes.
don't want to go injure yourself. The act actually speaks to persons who are incapacitated, and it has a special word in there where it says idiots. I have been trying years and years now to get myself passed as an idiot in order to get the exemption, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh at you, but okay.
Yeah, man.
The big topic and subject in all of our heads, gas, fuel prices. How is that tax computed?
Woo. All right. So the gas tax is it still is one of the newer taxes that we have. It's been around now for about 6, 7 years.
Hmm.
Um, what it really is, we call it gas tax. It really is special consumption taxes. And
Mm-hmm.
the special consumption tax is a sister of GCT. They rule under the same act. It is on prescribed goods, and the prescribed goods is just like three categories: petroleum related items, syntax we call it, tobacco, the cigarettes. It's paid on that. So what happens with this gas tax is the petroleum is refined by Petrojam, and it will come out, and they will have a certain cost or price. The cost to them would be the price that you pay, plus whatever other markup they have. The gas comes out at a certain price, and they add the prescribed rate of gas tax to it, the SCT. For example, on 90 gas, the prescribed amount right now is $38 and some cents. And that is added. So I was doing a comparison because I passed the gas stations on Friday and did a
Mm-hmm.
comparison. I have something on my desk thrown down. Yeah. So they at Petrojam right now, as at March 10, they are selling to the dealers. They're selling 90 for 191.93, $192 roughly per liter. What is in that $192 is $38 and some cents of SCT gas tax, and there's also another component called the ad valorem tax, which is about 10% after the. It's a
Wait.
complicated thing. Won't go into the complications. So just about $55, $56 and some change of what you pay per liter is tax overall. So yes, a lot of people think it can go. I won't say anything too tough. I think the government maybe see how them can do even half. I would gladly
Wow.
do. But it is
Because
the go ahead.
because I was the fact that you mentioned that figure, I remember I was looking at it. I don't know why I had an interest in it. I was looking at it for February 10th, 17th, and I think the 24th. And it was 185 at one point, then 166, then it went back up to 185. And I was like, but this is not the figure I'm seeing at the pump. So now I'm understanding about the how is it computed now. So
Right.
you have made I actually mentioned it on last week live, and I was like, what? it doesn't make any sense. I'm seeing 223 at the pumps. So where does that excess falls into place? And now we know you live and you learn.
And also, as you say, the 223, perhaps where you live, uptown, the uptown price. At my favorite place, I'm from Clarendon, so my favorite place is Clarendon Park.
I
And
love that gas station, that total.
yes,
I'm
yes.
heading to Mandeville. And by the way, I live in St. Catherine. I stop at that pump and full up. Once I'm going to country, I don't full up in Portmore. I head to Clarendon Park because it's normally a little bit less. I hope them don't hear us and increase
Yeah, all
it.
right. I did a check with them because I have a friend who works there. And so from the increase on Thursday, I spoke with him and he had sent me a screenshot. They're selling their 90 right now for $201.20,
Whoa.
while places in Kingston, which is
Yes.
just about 5% more than Petrojam is selling it for. But there are
Yes.
other places in Kingston. I get into work today because I'm at my office. I passed a place in Crossroads and it was being sold about 18% more when I did the check
And Crossroad
than,
is normally the ones that have it cheaper in Kingston. So you can
yeah.
imagine the other places.
It depends on where in Crossroads you go. But
The
the
one
Crossroad
down on
right,
the two down on Slipe Road.
right. When you go down towards Hero Circle, then you're in a better place. But it
Wow.
varies. And the reason why it varies by gas station so much is that the gas is produced by Petrojam, sold to the marketing companies, and then sold to the stations.
So
The
that's why you have
station
that huge disparity.
that is part of it. The stations that are run by marketing, the marketing companies are the ones who the Petrojam sells to. They're licensed. The one in Clarendon Park is owned by a marketing company, so they sell it straight. While the one that you would see perhaps on the other side of Crossroads or Uptown, they buy them from the marketing company because the marketing company puts their markup in there and then sells it back again at another markup to cover their expenditure. So
And
that
the
is why you see
marketing
the
company
variations.
would be like a Rubies, a Total, a Texaco.
That is
So you're
correct.
saying go to those instead.
Go to those that are owned by the actual Rubis, yes.
Wow, this is news to my ears, Ricardo. Good, some awesome information today because I'm actually going to one which is the same name as the one in Clarendon, but I'm not sure if it is a franchise of that one or all of
Right.
those would fall under the marketing umbrella.
Right. Not all of them, because I know another of the same type
Right.
In Maypen, and they sell much, much, much more expensive than the one
Wow.
in Clarendon Park because they're just an offshoot, they're a franchise.
So I'm gonna use fuel if find the marketing company. I need to create the list.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Just quickly though, I have had you here for 28 minutes. Well, more than that because we chat up a bit. But you had said 50, but this is so important, Ricardo, and we have to
No
bring you back
problem.
at some point I guess before about July, August to discuss some other aspect of tax.
All
But
right.
jump into GCT tax return. How does the GCT tax operate? Are there penalties too for late filing, and how I get that refund? And we
All right.
can,
So GCT is this is something that concerns people primarily when they go to the supermarket and they're ready
yes,
to go through the cashier. They always be saying like, Lord, how much this will tax
I
going to come up
pray.
to? Yes, that's what you pay because it's a value added tax and it's an end user tax. So it's passed down the line until it comes to you at the end. How it operates though, from the business side of things, it's paid by business persons. Right now, the threshold for GCT is about $10 million. So if your business is earning or gross revenue is about 10 million and over, and you are in a taxable, as the law tells you what is
The
taxable,
threshold.
you're in a taxable business, then you are to register yourself and pay according to how the government stipulates. Really, what happens is that a business place, let's use a supermarket will purchase its goods from Wysinco, whichever distributor is out there, and they purchase that with tax, with GCT. We call that input tax. Whatever you pay to get the goods in, we call that input tax. And then the supermarket, when you go there, you pay GCT on the amount that they've marked it up by, and then they resell it. So what the businesses do at the end of the period is take the total that they've sold in output tax, which is what you pay the consumer, and take away the input tax that they have paid to the distributors or companies that they buy from, and pay the excess over to the government. So the government first nails out what they have paid, and then
Right.
whatever the additional is, that's the value added component of it, that is paid over to the government. So that's pretty much how that operates. How these businesses get GCT refunds is when they have done something, or they have done so much in terms of purchasing that and sold so little, because you have some months that may be slow, that they end up having paid too much. When you
Right.
do the computation, there's too much. So they get that money back upon application to the tax department. The sweet thing with that is this: unlike you, who your income tax, when the department takes 6 months and 9 months to pay you back, you just get back the money, and that money could have depreciated significantly over the nine
With the
months.
taxes.
Right. GCT is different. After about 90 days, then it begins to earn interest. So the government
Wow.
really tries very quickly, the tax
To pay out.
department tries very quickly to pay those out, because the interest that is attached to GCT in no time can become some significant sums. You have companies that are claiming millions, hundreds of millions, depending on what they're doing, and that adds up to a lot of millions in interest in a short period. So that is one of the government's priority. GCT refunds are dealt with very expeditiously.
Are there penalties? And what are those? What is do that?
There are, there are. If you don't file GCT, you pay about 1.5% per month on the outstanding balance. And of course, there is a penalty for not filing on time too. It ranges from about $10,000 up to a cap of $100,000 based on the amounts that you should have paid. So that is the saving grace of that. It goes from ten to $100,000 and no further. But the interest does carry, and if you have filed and not paid up the amount, then you can find yourself in no time owing the government significantly more than
Mhm.
than if you had done your filing early and had made your payment early.
Remind us of that exemption for self-employed persons or employed. Is it the 25% exemption for us? Or when is it that we file? Um,
Or you mean the commission sales agents?
right.
Right. So if prior to September 30, what happens now is that commission sales agents, they tend to wait until the end of the year to file their income tax returns, and then get back all of that, get back all of the excess of tax that they have paid, which is fine. But the problem is, depending on how the department, the TAJ, is operating, you may find yourself waiting a couple months well to get the refund. Worse, if you are selected for audit, that can stretch.
I have been
So
I have been an example of that. But once you have your receipts, you're good. We spoke
you
about
tend to
keeping
be
your
better.
records.
Yes, yes. So what happens is the exemption situation exists where after you filed your return for the previous year, and even if you don't have any return filed yet, you can apply, if you're in your first year of operation, you can apply for exemption, and the department will review your exemption and agree, disagree, adjust whichever way your what you have submitted, and say, okay, you are approved to claim expenses of up to say $3 million for the current year. So what that does is that it builds in effect, what it does is builds in an additional threshold to the threshold that you'd have gotten already from your employer. It is something that you carry to your employer, a letter actually, and your employer fits that into the payroll. So you get the tax relief each month instead of just waiting for this lump sum at the end of the year. So that can help for persons who need cash flow. That does help. And nowadays, especially if you have things like mortgage and stuff, as the mortgages are taking off,
Yes,
um,
sir.
having that exemption and getting your money upfront each month is sometimes a much better way to go than waiting until March and then waiting maybe until the following year or some future time to get your money back. So it's up to you at the end of the day whether you want to wait or you want to go the route of getting an exemption.
Taxes it was, guys. I want to thank you once again, Ricardo, for being here. A lot has been said, and I hope our fellow Jamaicans take heed to all of what was said today and get your house in order. Any final words and advice, and we wrap it up today?
That's I have said as much as I could. My word is always be ready, have your books and records up to scratch, save your receipts, save your invoices. Whichever you know will fade, make copies, sign them, date them. If you have to get a JP to sign them too, to show that you have legal intentions, because those documents do stand up in court. Um, and safeguard yourself too, because the department can just throw them out after that. Do what you must to make sure you have all your books and records in place and you are ready when the taxman comes.
Yes. Thank you, Sir Hanson, auditor, tax professional, Mr. Ricardo Hanson, sir. I appreciate it, and we'll be meeting again at some point in the year, whether on this platform and, of course, as a part of the association that I'm a part of to speak to, or financial advisors. Thank you. Appreciate it. 1 week notice you're here, and with all the pressure that is on you, all the best for the 15th, guys. Remember to
Thank
file
you.
on or before the 15th, so you have 2 days to go. Remember to stay strong, to stay focused, guys. Walk good and stay strong. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I so do intend to. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Remember to share with your friends and your family members. Informative stuff here for all of us, self-employed, employed, business owners, whomever. Share the information. Of course, it was my pleasure again speaking to you guys. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, as was said before, the Iconic Advisor page. Remember to follow on Instagram, Icon Insurance with a Z, and Facebook, Charlotte Higgins Clark, and the Financial Advisor page. Thank you once again, guys. Walk good again. And remember to love upon your family and your friends.